What's going on, Javi Lobby? It's your boy Javier with the Javier Show. Make sure you say it twice. All right, y'all. So there are no shortage of clips of leftist meltdowns when it comes to the Roe versus Wade leak. And let's just say that Trevor Noah and Stephen Colbert, they they just going a little nuts over it. And we just gotta discuss it. So stay tuned.
1 in a million to 1 billion. Too hot to be in the kitchen, out in the melting the ceiling.
All right, y'all. So I already had a little debate about the Roe versus Wade thing. So I'm gonna do my best to just show you why some of these comedians can be jokes and not even be funny at the same exact time. So this right here is Trevor Noah giving his take on Roe versus Wade.
If the court's decision is released officially, abortion will be illegal in about half the states in America. Yeah, that means all across the country. Women in places like South Dakota or Missouri or even Texas will have the exact same abortion rights as women in Afghanistan under the Taliban. Yeah.
Look how they decide to choose. Okay, if we're talking about comparing countries, we decide to go all the way to Afghanistan and things of that sort to make a point, right? You know what they also do in Afghanistan? They eat food, they drink. You can make comparisons however you decide to try to paint the picture one way or the other. What you could say is that means more children will be born as if just like in this country or that country, but they won't say that.
And just think about that. We just evacuated people out of Afghanistan, and now we're going to have to evacuate them out of Tennessee? And isn't it amazing?
Not
After
funny.
all these years of the right screaming about the threats of Sharia law, it turns out they were just jealous. Now,
Okay, so now he basically equates the right to Sharia law. And we know this is bogus because let's just be honest. Most of these people don't actually understand what conservatives actually stand for, why we stand for it, and the logic and reasoning behind it. They just assume that somehow conservatives are in the business of trying to control people. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all boiled down to. And no matter how many times you tell these people, time and time again, your reasoning, they will not listen. They will not heed your information. They will not change. They will continuously, constantly mischaracterize what your position is in order to make a point. That's why so many people across the country are confused or don't understand exactly what Roe versus Wade actually means and what it will actually change. And here we find ourselves.
Now, to be clear, Roe v. Wade hasn't yet been overturned, right? This is a leaked draft from February. It's not official. Like, for all we know, the opinion could change by the time it's released, or the justices who signed on to it in February could change their minds. It is not likely, but it's technically possible. I mean, like, who knows? Maybe Justice Alito will try ayahuasca and come back with a totally new perspective on the universe and how we're all connected.
Look, I understand that Trevor Noah is a comedian. Trust me, I do not want anybody to take this as, oh, you're taking his jokes and making it out to be something it's not. But let's be honest. He is touching on political issues. That's what he does as a comedian. And on top of that, he's very often not funny. He's not even funny.
Or maybe between then and now, one of these justices will have a daughter, and then they'll understand. Wait, hold on. Oh, I'm being told 4 of them do have daughters. Oh, okay, well, that's up. But
all right, so why that's not a joke and why it's not funny? For one, it's not funny, right? For two, they are under the impression that only women have the right to speak on the issue of abortion. Yet, they don't even believe that because they never want to hear from the women who are actually pro-life. They don't care about women voices. They care about women who agree with them voices, as if the women who are pro-life don't necessarily really have a voice, or they don't see them as women who count. Secondly, I find it very ironic that the same people who can't really define what a man and a woman is somehow can waddle their way up to the point of saying, well, this is about women's rights. Well, first of all, define what a woman is, and then tell me, because last time I checked, you say that some men can actually have babies. Hear what I'm saying? You say some men can actually have babies. So wouldn't this also be about women and men rights?
It's important to remember how we got here. Because keep in mind that poll after poll shows that a majority of Americans don't want Roe v. Wade to be overturned. But the GOP didn't care about that. No, they didn't care about winning over the people. They just cared about getting enough justices onto the court to get what they want. Basically,
okay, here's the problem with that. And I really want y'all to listen to this. Here's the problem with that. The Supreme Court's job is not to do what majority of the people in the country want. Their job is to interpret the law. Congress' job is to pass laws. Do you understand what I'm saying? It is not the Supreme Court's job to enact the will of the majority. It's their job to interpret the laws as they stand on the books. Yet, here's the fundamental misunderstanding of what the Supreme Court's job is. And yet, they will get on national television and tell people that the Supreme Court is the one who makes the decision on what laws exist on the books and which one doesn't. And they are going against what majority of the people actually voted for. Because if majority of the people actually voted for this, then Congress can just pass the law and we wouldn't even have to be in this situation.
they use the same tactic that asshole friend of yours uses when they're ordering pizza. Hey, what topics does everyone want? What do you want on the pizza? Extra cheese and pepperoni. Well, I'm ordering, so it's anchovies and pineapples. Dick. And that's basically how you end up with a Supreme Court decision that amounts to a hostile takeover of America's reproductive rights.
A hostile takeover of America's reproductive rights. A hostile takeover of America. Okay, let's say that his characterization of what's actually taking place is true. If it's a hostile takeover, if you really believe that your rights were being taken over in a hostile manner, then that therefore implies that you should do something about it, right? And people will constantly say that, oh, well, the left doesn't call for violence. The left doesn't encourage this type of behavior. Yet they use rhetoric that if anybody truly believed these things, then they would act accordingly, right? What do you do when somebody tries to hostily take over your house or hostily take over your car or something that belongs to you, something that is your right? What happens if somebody tries to hostily take over the Second Amendment or your First Amendment right? What do? Think about it. Just think about it.
The draft opinion is apparently written by Justice Samuel Alito. The language of this draft is blunt, at times scornful. Justice Alito apparently writing that Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. He calls it an abuse of judicial authority and adds it is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives.
Justice Samuel Alito says, quote, the inescapable conclusion is that the right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions.
Yeah, believe it or not, according to this argument, there actually is no fundamental right for women to control their own bodies.
That's not what that argument says. This is just blatantly wrong. It's a blatant lie. And it's just, at this point, you are definitely trying to turn people radical. Because how can we sit in the face of people who are blatantly just lying straight to the people's face and encouraging people to think something that is not true? I want to rewind that and let you hear exactly what he just said.
Yeah, lawmakers could pass laws giving them that, but that right is not part.
Give me a second. There we go.
Yeah, lawmakers could pass fundamental rights for women to control their own bodies. Yeah, lawmakers could pass laws giving them that, but that right is not part of this nation's history and traditions.
It's not.
Which is kind of true. I mean, the history of this nation is that men can control what women do.
All right. So basically, the argument is not that women don't have a right to choose what happens to their bodies. The argument is that women do not have the right to destroy another human life. This argument is about the other human life, and they constantly try to end the argument there. They always try to ignore that part and just make it seem as if conservatives are only concerned about controlling women. Really? Bro, if you've been in a relationship, if you've been married, trust me, you will pull out your hair trying to control women. Most of us are not interested in trying to control women. It is a task that is well beyond most men's capabilities, and it's not worth the reward.
And that's what we want to go back to, right? Progress? Yes, yes. Am I getting it right? I mean, but then again, the right to an abortion has also been around for 50 years now. Think about it. You want to talk about history and tradition? I think it's safe to say that that's a tradition at this point. Like, if you go without electricity for a weekend, you're camping. If you go without it for 50 years, you're Amish, motherfucker. That's just who you are. That's just who you are.
Okay, would he make that same argument for slavery? When slavery was around for 300-something years, would he make the argument, well, it's basically just the way it is, so we should just keep it as it is, even though it was wrong, even though it's based on something that is just inherently wrong, right? Like, how does these people think? How do they actually compare their thoughts to other things? And are they being intellectually consistent, right? They will make you go nuts. You know what? That's enough of Trevor Noah, right? That's enough. That's enough of Trevor Noah. Now, I'm going to turn my attention to Stephen Colbert, because I'm not going to keep y'all here too long, but I'm going to take my attention, because it's hard for me to listen to that guy for too long before I just, I'm ready to tune out. All right, so this one, funny enough, is called, by Stephen Colbert, the Supreme Court doesn't give a what the public wants. Already starting off with a false premise, but let's see what he has to say.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to The Late Show. I'm your host, Stephen Colbert. Well, you know what we're going to be talking about tonight, so strap in.
The last time I checked that men shouldn't have an opinion on women's rights. But once again, here's a double standard. It's okay for men to have an opinion as long as they agree with what they want them to agree with. Check it out.
I wanted to begin tonight's show talking about the Met Gala. You know, did you have a good time last night?
It was fun, man.
An amazing time. I want to talk about their theme of, glamour and the Gilded Age, that it's 1895, the Supreme Court. Because people in crazy outfits pretending that it's 1895, the Supreme Court. Because last night, we found out.
Look at them just cheering.
Yeah. Strap in, strap in.
Last night,
this is not comedy.
We found out, according to a leaked draft of the majority opinion, the Supreme Court has voted to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, when I heard this,
people are moaning that people can't suck out embryos out of their body. They are upset about that women cannot forcibly remove embryos from their uterus, from their wombs, basically.
Last night, at first I was shocked. Then I was shocked that I was shocked. You see, I'm no Angela Lansbury, and this isn't Cabot Cove, but keen-eyed observers may have noticed they've been dropping a few hints, a few clues that this might be coming down the pike. Personally, I got suspicious when Neil Gorsuch stopped wearing his pussy hat. The opinion.
I really wish I could laugh. I'm a person that really likes dark humor, but I really like dark humor. That's like my thing. And I like to laugh. I like comedy. And I think that comedians should be protected and free to say what they want to say. Sometimes I don't really understand how people laugh at some of these jokes. It's just not funny.
The opinion, which would dispense with a half a century of precedent, was written by Associate Justice Samuel Alito, seen here hoping nobody notices he just dropped an opinion in his robe.
I really just want them to answer, was slavery a precedent? Was slavery a precedent? And would you argue on the ground because something has happened for the last 50 years or something that therefore we should just continue the practice, even though, right? We already been through this.
And boy, is it a load. Alito writes, we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. A right to abortion is not deeply rooted in the nation's history and traditions. On the contrary, an unbroken tradition of prohibiting abortion on pain of criminal punishment persisted from the earliest days of the common law, because nothing says looking toward the future like adhering to the earliest days of common law. That's why I believe that life begins at white land-owning male. And why
See, it's always about race, and it's always about trying to poke at something about being old and tradition, but they always fail to realize that some of these oldest traditions is what got us where we are now. America didn't become great in the world. They didn't fall from the sky and everything just fell in place. A lot of these guys just are so dismissive. They stand on the shoulders of giants and they don't literally understand why. They have a rude and disrespectful outlook on the past, our founders, and our Constitution. They believe that the government, the Constitution, the bill, all of that is just based on what they at the time feel is right and wrong. And they are morally superior to everybody else that came before them, even though we know that 50 years from now, people are going to be looking back at these same people and be judging them based on their own morality. And they have no hindsight. They have no purview. They can't see what's ahead of them. They can only understand what they care about right here and right now. Anybody who disagrees with them must be either a bigot or somehow old-fashioned.
Horses who read should be arrested for witch mischief. Alito strangely argued that overturning Roe is about bringing people together, writing, Roe and Casey have inflamed debate and deepened division. So he thinks this decision will make those divisions better?
It should, because now states have the right to choose for themselves. Why should everybody across the land be forced to abide by something that is not, and I repeat, is not spelled out in the Constitution? If you want to amend the Constitution, go through the proper channels. That is why our government was set up, people.
And now to mend a broken nation by pulling the healing pin from this justice grenade and kaboombaya. Apparently, the conservative...
People who know nothing about conservatism.
Apparently, the conservative justices believe that this is not an issue for the courts. Alito writes, it is time to heed the Constitution and return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives. Yes, it's time to return this issue to the guy who Venmos teenagers for sex and the woman who believes in Jewish space lasers.
Or what about the people, we really want to get into the whole gender identity? We really want to go there? We really want to start pointing out some of the things that some of the representatives that on the Democratic side believe? Do we really want to go there? People get to elect their officials to represent them. That is why we vote in our states. We don't want a federal government who decides every single thing in every single aspect of our lives. Protect our rights, which are spelled out in the Constitution, and everything else should be left up for the states. And as long as they're not violating our rights, then I don't see why the federal government must have a hand in every single aspect of our day-to-day lives.
As the founders intended. Of course, back then there were no lasers. They thought the rabbis were erecting magnifying glasses on top of church steeples. Alito tries to dodge the controversy here, writing, we do not pretend to know how our political system or society will respond to today's decision overruling Roe and Casey. Okay. But it sure seems like somebody knew how society was going to respond, because immediately after the ruling was leaked, police surrounded the Supreme Court with barricades. These barricades? No, there's no problem. We just put them up to stop Clarence Thomas fans from hugging him.
Or maybe because we know that there are certain people on the left who riot, loot, burn, and we know this is a thing. Okay, they can point to January 6th all they want, but if you look over the past few years, who is the majority of the people doing the rioting, the looting? I mean, you can't even say January 6th was looting, really, but who is the most people burning things down? How many incidents are attributed to people on the right versus attributed to people on the left? Burning, looting, doing violence. Come on now. Like, we understand the real situation here.
Those Claire Bears are out of control.
It only takes a small select few people to make a big problem. All right, y'all. Well, I mean, look, the proof is in the pudding, man. I don't have to go on and on about this, man. I just want to point out how silly some of these comedians are, and they're not funny. They don't understand the issues. They use their celebrity status to push agendas that they don't truly understand, and it's clear they don't understand. A lot of these people are not really interested in understanding why people on certain positions hold those positions. They never really care. They don't really care. And I try my hardest to be fair and even-handed. I try my hardest to have conversations with people I disagree with, to try to understand the other side and where they're coming from and have genuine, honest conversations. Some of these people make it very hard to continue to do that. Some of these people, it just seems like you're beating a dead horse, right? And it's some issue like abortion can very much turn people radical. They will try to dismiss you because of your religious reasons or what political side that you're on, but there are liberals who are pro-life. There are atheists who are pro-life. It does not have to be any of those circumstances. A lot of times they will try to dismiss you because you are a Christian or because you are whatever religion you are or because you are conservative, but they will not actually deal with what we're actually trying to say. And if you don't believe that, then I'll ask you, how many times do you cut on your YouTube? How many times do you cut on your television and you completely see your positions being misrepresented constantly? And they always try to blame conservatives for being the problem. But when conservatives react to something that they are trying to push down on everybody else, then we are the ones that are outrageous. We are the ones who are trying to be authoritarian. Like, hear me. There's nothing authoritarian about being for state rights. There's something authoritarian by wanting the federal government to control every aspect of everybody else's life across the board. That is authoritarianism. Okay, so thank y'all so much for watching. Peace and glory, everybody. Make sure before y'all leave, hit that like button. Hit that like button. Help with the YouTube algorithm. And also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe right here, right now. Thank y'all so much for watching. Peace and glory, like I said before. Till next time.
1 in a million to 1 billion. Too hot to be in the kitchen. I'll end up melting the ceiling.